I see you're getting into the full. That's how I remember it. This is what I do.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm going to make this real quick. Ash, John Boneyard, and all the leaders of the organization here. As an old vampire myself from the 1970s, I appreciate everything you're doing to spread the good word about VAM collecting and new attributions, new breakthroughs, new discoveries. I think it's just a wonderful thing you guys are doing. And on behalf of FUN, I thank you for having your meeting here, because it certainly adds something to the coin show that nothing else really can do. And between you and John Roberts, I think we have the VAM market pretty well covered. I think you do a tremendous job. So on behalf of FUN, you have my sincerest thanks, and we'll look forward to seeing you here next year. We appreciate it very much. Thank you, and have a great meeting. There we go. Get out your guys' way.
Hi, I'm Ash Harrison. I'm president of the SSDC. I'm going to bring this down a little.
Starting to dress like a Floridian.
Not quite as tall maybe as some of the folks here. Welcome to VAM Thing 16? 16. There's been some confusion over the years as to our numbering. We may ought to go to the year that we're doing this, but I believe 16 is the correct count. And I don't know how many people here have been to most of them, but I recognize a lot of faces. So it's a good thing to say about VAMs. I think a lot of the faces stay the same, but the crowds actually do tend to grow. And with that, I feel really comfortable that we're still doing fine. If you look at the current market, you may find that VAMs have been weak in the middle grades, or call it non-top pop coins, and very, very strong at the top. I think that's consistent in the coin market these days. I think that a lot of coins have been a little soft in the average grades and quite strong on the top. And so I don't think there's anything new there, and I think there's no news to the people in this crowd that that's what's going on. I feel comfortable that this is a growing thing, and I think that if you're avidly collecting VAMs, that you should be optimistic about things that are coming. I've noticed, I don't know how many people here actually, I think most of us ultimately become somewhat of a trader or seller, as well as buyers of these coins. And I don't know about you guys, but I've actually seen a bit of an upturn in activity here recently. I've certainly noticed it at my shop on, just coins in general, gold, with the current state of affairs in the economy and in the, well, I just want to say the state of affairs in this country. I think that there's a bit of unrest, and I think that with that, a lot of times people head towards the more blue chip things, and things like gold and silver get very popular at this time. So I think that we're encountering some of that, and well, I don't like to think that it has to be a mess out there for us to do well, but it does seem to help sometimes. So with that, I will move on to the next subject. Today, I just wanted to review a little bit of what we've been doing in the Society of Silver Dollar Collectors. I think now I've stood up here, this is the third year that I've stood up here and talked to you guys about values. And I know everyone out there wants to have a guide. And we want it even more than everybody else. Believe me, being in a position where everybody can see my phone number and my email, believe me, I get plenty of requests for what is this coin worth. And I think that we've finally gotten very close to zeroing in on a way to deliver that. And this morning I was happy to see a very sizable amount of work has been done on that by John Cox. And we have talked about this now for a couple of years, and I think that we're getting extremely close to being able to demonstrate what's going to be done this year on providing a value guide to people for varieties. It may also include the common coins and the Morgans and stuff, but I don't think that's its point. It's just that also, you know, it's like, here's the common coin, here's things. And I think we're going to be, I don't have all the ins and outs right now, but I think if you see me mid-year, maybe at the A&A, we'll have the product to provide to everybody. So we had some lengthy discussion on it this morning at the board meeting, and I think that after that I saw some of the alpha, let's call it the alpha test of some of that, and it's encouraging. I was actually quite impressed with what John's gotten done so far, so I feel good about that. Also, we are looking at adding some more sets. It's actually undoing some things. We're going to be adding regular issues to collecting, basically, on the registry. If you collect Morgan dollars and it's not VAM centric, well, we're going to have the ability to have a set that's just Morgan dollars. And there's a reason for that. We're currently talking to the NSDR, the National Silver Dollar Roundtable, about bringing them into the fold to be able to, let's say, collect with us in the registry. So that's not fully hashed out, but I think that we're going to see it on our registry regardless. And I think that within the next few months we'll have something worked out with the NSDR on how to do the registry. So they're looking for doing that, and we would like to work with them and help them do it. So in the spirit of the SSDC, for as long as we've been doing this, we want to be as helpful as possible for the collecting of these coins. So we're trying to put together a collaborative effort. Okay, moving right along, we have a lot of information to give you today. We've got some presentations that are pretty darn powerful, and I believe are we going to start with Dick? I believe we're going to start with Dick Osborne today, and he's going to talk to us about, would I guess anything else? So without any further ado, I'm going to have you come up, Dick.
Thank you.
Hey, John. What is it? Okay. And does he have a way to move through it?
Yeah, that remote's up there.
I may have it.
That remote's over there.
Okay, so he's got.
I got a pointer.
Point. Anywhere.
Here.
Okay.
Point the laser pointer there.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Everybody, Dick Osborne.
The button goes forward and backward button goes back.
You might also just kind of give them a little background on what you do, because I don't know that everybody knows.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm the comic relief, because this is not going to be about VAMs. But I've been collecting Liberty seated coins, first half dollars, and then silver dollars for probably going on 40 years now, something like that. And I sold my half dollar collection, the uncirculated set, in 2011. And I've been interested in varieties forever, so I can really relate to VAMs. I had one of my books in my library is I think the original VAM book that I bought in the 1980s. And so I've always been looking at varieties, but I ended up getting focused down into first Liberty-seeded halves and then Liberty-seeded dollars. The whole time I was collecting Liberty-seeded halves, I became a dealer in the late 1990s, and I wanted some sort of a book on seeded dollars because there wasn't anything out there. But I couldn't afford to do the work of assembling a reference set and all that while I was collecting my half dollars. I didn't have that much money. So when I sold my half dollars, I actually started to put together a reference set of seeded dollars, and with the goal of writing a book, which I'll show you before this is over. So anyway, that's where all this came from. Had been in 2003. I retired from NASA, became a full-time coin dealer, and then I sold the coin business in 2010. But at that point, I started working on this book. So what we're going to talk about is Liberty-seeded dollars. I'm hoping this will relate to VAM collectors because what I'm going to focus on is just a few varieties, and there's some really interesting ones in seeded dollars. Why would you collect seeded dollars? These are my top 3 reasons. It's rarity, incredible rarity. I put together, this is a table out of the book that I put together just to compare a seeded dollar, with some of the real rare coins, the keepers that we're all familiar with. 1909 SPDB cent, for instance, the total grade of 26,000. 16D dime, 12,000. 93S dollar, 9,000. All seeded dollars. Don't forget about date, but all seeded dollars, all put together. There's a little over 20,000 grade, and this was in 2017, so it's probably gone up some since then, but not too much. What would it cost to put a set together? Common date. It's easy to find a common date. If you go real high grade, it may take you 2 coin shows, but you'll find them. A typeset is easy also, but when you get to a date-only set, depending on what condition you're looking for and what your budget is, it can take a long time. They almost don't exist, and I think this is probably similar to Morgan's. There's not too many of them circulated down to good or very good. And the same thing's true in the seeded dollars. If you try to put together a set in good to fine, it's going to take a long time, probably 10 to 20 years. There are only, the 1851, for example, there's only 2 below fine that exist in problem-free holders. So this just gives you a little idea of what it's going to take and how long it's going to take to put together a set of seeded dollars. I think, again, I've been a variety guy forever. I think they add spice to any collection, and to this one, they really can add some spice. Supplement your set with varieties. The reference, our book came out at this show last year, and I've got, anybody wants to look at it, I've got copies up here. It's a register of Liberty-seeded dollars, a register of die varieties, published at the Fun Show last year. And page 57 of the book is what we call our top 30 varieties. This is the first page of that. It's the top 10. There are 2 more pages, which I'm not going to show you. This just gives you an idea of what's in the book. But I decided to pick 5 of my favorites. And there's an 1842, a late die state that has 3 very major obverse cuts. There's a 44 that is both a double obverse die and has a couple of misplaced digits. And interestingly enough, that's not rare at all because that's the only die used for business strikes in 1844. The 1854, there's 2 proofs that have blunder dates. And one thing we came out with in the book that we proved that had not been published before is both of those dates were restrikes. They were struck in the 1859 to the 1861 time frame. The 1868 is another interesting one. It has a minor repunch date, but it also has a 1/8 visible down there, misplaced digits. And then there's an 1870cc with rotated dies that's a real easy one to see. This is the 1842, and you can clearly, this picture was taken of a coin and a holder, but you can still very clearly see the 3 cuds on the rim. You can find this, this die marriage with no cuds, with 1 cud. I actually haven't found one with 2 cuds, but I've been told that somebody has seen one, or 3 cuds. And again, it's not terribly rare, but it's really interesting. If you go look at 10 1842s, which that may be a challenge to find because there's not too many seated dollars out there. If you look at 10 of them, you're going to find 1 or 2 that are this variety. And the interesting thing is it's also a very minor misplaced date. If you look up in the rock, just to the left of the 2, you'll see the bottom of another 2 that's sticking out of the rock. So it's a misplaced date as well as having the cuds, and you can see one of the major cuds on this picture also. The 1844, let's see, I've got a pointer on here, right?
Right in the middle.
This is a double die, and it's a really major double die. If you look at it right in there, there's actually 4 stripes in the shield because the doubling was exactly the width of a shield stripe. So it looks like there's 4 stripes in each bundle in the shield. And there's also the top of a 1 and an 8 in the gown. So it's not a rare variety. It's the only obverse die that they use for business strikes. But it's really interesting because of the major blunders. If there's no MPD on it, if you ever see an 1844 with no MPD, it's a proof. And that is something to look for. I've cherry-picked 2 of them in the last 20 years that were in AU or AU clean holders, but were actually proofs. And there's some other ways to identify them besides that. But if it doesn't have these characteristics, it is a proof. You don't even need to look at the back, which is the normal place that you look for a proof. The 1854, there's actually 2 die marriages. This die is married to 2 different reverses. And you'll see there's the top of a 4 right there. There's a top of another 4 down there. And there's actually some other fragments if you look at it really, really close. So it is a kind of a major blunder date. Both of these die marriages are restrikes. We were able to show that the reverse die was used first. One of the reverse dies was used first for a die marriage out in, I think, 1859. And then the second one didn't share any of those dies, but it was a later die state with the obverse. So it was also obviously a restrike. There's an 1840 reverse that is shared on almost all the proofs from 1840 to 54. And this is one case where neither die marriage has that reverse. Only the originals in the 1850, there's an original 1854 proof, and it has the reverse that was shared by all of the coins from 1840 on. I mentioned the 1868. This one has down on the rim, you can see the top of a 1 and an 8 misplaced digits, and it's also you don't see it very well in the picture, but it's a double date, fairly wide doubling on the 1, and then it gets lesser as you go across. So you have both a repunched 1 and an MPD. This is the only one we know in the series that has an MPD on the rim. And the one I had mentioned is really easy to see is the 1870cc. One of the die marriages, there's actually 3 different die marriages that we've seen with major rotation, but for the other 2, we've seen only 1 or 2 of each one of them. This one you see enough that it's actually a collectible rarity. 70cc's are rare. The rotated reverse is rare, but you can find them. There's, I've identified probably 20 in the Heritage Archives, and there was one came up just recently in one of the auctions. This one we think is probably an R5 plus with the rotation. And you can see it's about 60 degrees, thereabouts. So it's, at any point, all you have to do is turn it over and you can find it real quick. Closing thoughts. I tried to keep this short because John said 10 minutes. So I reviewed only 5 of the top 30. Top 30 are all listed in the book. And there's more varieties that weren't included in the top 30. There's a lot of minor double dyes and minor repunch dates. So there's probably 60 or 70 coins that you can call varieties in the series. So it's lots of challenges to an interested variety collector. And since this is actually this is last January. Since last January, they're all very well documented. Just let me grab that. Okay. There's hardbound and softbound copies of the book. This is the softbound copy of the book, and it has each date identified, goes through each dye marriage for each date, identifies varieties, if any. There are some of them that don't have anything unusual, but a number of them, I would say probably 50% of them have some minor dye doubling or minor repunching, that kind of thing, and they're all documented in here. And interestingly enough, this is in its infancy. You know, VAM was started 40 years ago, 65, a long time ago. This has just come out, and so far we've only found 1 dye marriage after this came out. So
You did a good job.
well, we didn't have nearly as much to deal with.
Maybe so.
When you look at the seated dollars, 6 million minted of the entire series versus what 10 million of the 1878 Morgan dollar, I think. So we're not fishing in nearly as big a pond as you guys are. My hats are off to you that you can keep after all of them. Yeah.
Of the less than 11,000 in slabs, how many of those do you think are 59Os and 60Os?
A lot. I believe there were about 5 bags of 59Os and 60Os that came out when the GSA released all of the CC dollars and the other stuff. And those bags were solid date Liberty seated dollars, either 1859 or 1860. That's why you see so many of them. The ones you see, most of them are mint state. None of them are above mint state 63. Very few of them even get to that because they were stored in those bags for 100-some years and they beat each other up. So you see lots of heavily bag marked 59Os and 60Os, and they've got to make a fairly big percentage of that total that are slab.
Do you have the books readily available?
I do. The hardbound copy, there's like 4 left. And so I don't have very many of that one, but we do have a few of them left at our table. The softbound, we've probably got about 20 left. And,
what table?
1, 2, 3, 4. It's easy to remember.
I want to point out that we have recently integrated the seeded varieties into the SSCC registry, so people can actually collect them in sets. Don't know if we've done the top 30. Brett, did we do top 30 yet? So we'll probably get the book and we'll actually create that set so that anybody who wants to collect them, you can instantly do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I need to find out what's out there because there's going to be a second edition of the book probably in the next year and a half or 2 years, and I need to make sure that kind of stuff gets into it.
Is there a vibrant market for seed liberty and seed dollar?
I wouldn't call it a vibrant market because most collectors, when they get started, are intimidated by it. You know, a good, solid, problem-free good costs you $350, something like that. And so a lot of collectors don't ever get into them beyond a typeset. And some of them just 1 coin in the typeset, or sometimes no motto with motto, but most don't go beyond that. So the collector base is really thin compared to a lot of the other series. You know, on the other hand, because of the rarity of the coins, you get 20 more collectors in the market, and some of the prices can start going crazy. And that's beginning to happen a little bit. We're seeing a lot more interest they're holding their price base much more, I think, than some of the other series in today's market.
Dick, have you unmasked any counterfeits with the book? That people have been able to spot counterfeits because it doesn't match.
I have not
varieties?
heard of one being found because of the book. I mean, I've seen a number of them, and they're, you know, the cheap ones are coming out of China like everything else. You know, the scary thing is that they can now make ones that aren't cheap. But I have not, to this point, had one, you know, identified because people couldn't find it in the book or anything like that. Like I said, we've only found one new variety, so it's still a work in progress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much. I added references for those that are interested in seeded dollars, and unfortunately I don't have any paper copies of the presentation, but I can get my contact information to anybody that's interested, and I'd be glad to email you a copy.
Thanks so much.
When this is over, if anybody's interested, I have all five of those varieties here that you can take a look at.
What are these your copies of the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get them.
Okay.
Done.
Okay. We're going to keep moving right along. At this point, I'd like to have John come up for just a few minutes and describe what's been going on in VAM world. John Baumgart. Thank you.
So, for those of you who don't know, VAM World has been moved from an old site to a new site, and that might sound like a trivial little thing to do, but the background of this is about a year ago, Wikispaces, which was the host of the old VAM World, announced that they were closing after about 11 years that we had been using that. So then it became a task to find a new home, establish a new home for VAM World. The decision was to get everything that we could archived, which was not easy. Wikispaces made it very difficult because their support was not good, and their support was probably leaving day by day, and they had no one left to help us. But I managed to get all of the VAM pages, all the photos, and even the discussion board downloaded off of the old VAM World site, and then migrated that. So I had to write a whole bunch of code to convert the stuff that we downloaded to a new format, which is now looks a lot like Wikipedia, because it's based on the same software that Wikipedia uses. So all the way that we're used to using Wikipedia, that works here, and it's hosted on a Amazon Web Services instance. So there's not a physical box that one of us has, but it's basically hosted in the cloud now. The home page looks just like the old one did. The formats, we try to keep those the same. We have you can still search your Morgan dollars by dates. The dates are all there. I want to highlight a couple things that this is a little more capable of doing than the old VAM World, is that we have a lot more control over format and content, and we can make things like this box in the upper right-hand corner, for example. On every date, you can put something that shows the mintage, the proof mintage, how many dyes were used, how rare is this date, and proof like, and any other vital stats we want to about that date. We've got we have an index a couple additional attribution guides that we have for any given date. If there's sorted things out by mid-mark position or date position or other things like that, we did that. And then for any of these all these other ones, if we go to one of the Super VAM pages, once we get a lot of sections into these things, the framework gives us a table of contents, so you can go right to additional photos for these things, and it pops right up. One of the things that I'd like to see done with VAM World is have the content made a lot more salient and organized better, so that if you're looking at something, you can read through it and see a lot of stuff that's really relevant to a specific VAM. And for 1878CC, I went with John Roberts, and then we had Alan Scott kind of proofreading proofreading all the changes also from someone who's not a 78cc specialist. And added things like the nice touches like adding the emission sequence, so how each die was used, the order in which it was used, with links to all the other pages. So if it says 19B, then okay, we link to 19B, and we can go see that and go back to it, the other one. The photos, we kind of organized those a little bit better. One of the things about this Media Wiki framework is that it's very responsive to your window size. So if you're using a mobile device, or if you're using a desktop, it responds to how big your screen is. So you can see the images will resize to what you have, and that's automatic. So we won't have images that are cut off on the right-hand side of your screen anymore. The things like, lesser important pictures, we've segregated those down to secondary pickups. So if you're attributing something, you want to have the first things you need to see up front, things that are less important down below, and the photos a little bit smaller so that they're not taking up quite so much real estate. Again, they resize, they have captions on them. You can click on one of the photos and it'll take you to a bigger version of that photo. So we don't lose the size of the photo or anything, but we just aren't presenting screenfuls of stuff you have to scroll through to see all the information. Likewise, for the full photos, you can just page through those this way, and you're not scrolling through this. You can flip one over, reverse, and look at it that way. So, as I was saying, I went through 78cc with John and Alan to basically reformat all of 78cc to make it quick, efficient to use, best information at the top for attributing, but still all the information there. Other dates that hasn't been done yet, so what I'd like to see is people that are interested in editing stuff to take this as an example of how we like to organize VAM World to make it more useful to people. So the discussion forums is the other thing that was on the old Wikispaces, VAM World. And unlike Wikispaces, this was an entirely different software package I had to install than the wiki. So we have you need two accounts to use these. You need one account to post messages and stuff to the VAM World discussion board. If you want to edit VAM pages, you need another account to edit the wiki, but you don't need to have both of them. If you don't want to edit the wiki, you don't need to have that account. Anybody can use that. So, and this software that runs this is also very responsive to mobile devices. So if you have a cell phone you're using, it formats. It's aware of the width of your screen, so it edits the stuff that it's showing you. If you have a real narrow screen, it'll show you the topics like this. If you've got a desktop computer, it'll show them like this. It shows who's been posting and updating. The VAM World discussion forum is more active than the NGC coin forum on NGC's website. So we get more traffic here in a day than NGC does. It's a very active forum, a lot of people using it. And whereas like any other forum, create an account here, I have to approve it so we don't get too many spam bots in, but you can post pictures, you can edit your post before posting them. Here's a picture from dinner last night. We had about 20 of us out there having a good time. You can tag other users in there to kind of tell them, hey, come and look at this. So I think this is a huge improvement over the forum that Wikispaces gave us.
One key question, which I love, is that you can actually go back and re-edit all of your mistakes that you've made writing, spellings, errors, or say, whoops, I got it wrong. So you can actually go back and re-edit what you wrote.
You can edit things.
Once you post it,
I'm never wrong, I'm just mistaken. It's a double-edged sword, though.
You can go back and edit your post. You can. I can go back and edit somebody else's post if they post a phone number or something. I can take it off since I'm the administrator.
I've seen the redacted stuff.
Yes. So there's so I have to basically kind of babysit, make sure we behave. But yeah, if someone mistakenly posts somebody else's email or phone number, then I'll catch it and I'll just wipe it out of take it out of that post and leave everything else in there. But yeah, I mean, I really like the way that this software works. The beauty about both the wiki and the discussion boards, both of them are open source software that's very well maintained. They're the mainstream choices for these sort of things for all sorts of forums and wikis all around the internet. So that's really about all I want to touch on VAM World. If anybody has questions about it, you can contact me later. You know, I encourage you to play with it. If you've never used VAM World, go play with it. If you want to sign up for an account, all you got to do is hit the register button here and pick a. It tells you what to do. I agree. And pick a username and tell me your email address and password, and then I'll enable your account as soon as I get the notification that you've registered.
It's not mandatory that you become a member of the SSDC to do it, but we highly encourage it.
The SSDC pays for the AWS fees that we incur for having the wiki up there, for all the network traffic that we incur, people viewing all the images and posting images and stuff to the discussion board. So it's yeah, totally sponsored by the SSDC. There's no additional fee, and if you aren't a member and don't want to, we're still going to let you use it because it's the best numismatic specialty club information and stuff that's out there by far. And that's thanks to everybody who's contributed good information to it and continues to participate in discussions. So that's all I have for VAM World.
Thank you, John. Now that's not to be confused with the SSDC registry. The registry is a function of a SSDC membership, so just so you know. Okay, I would like to introduce now our keynote speaker, let's say. Dick, that was not to say, but this little guy here is got some weight to the Morgan Dollar guys in the crowd. And there's some magic in this, so I'd like to, without any further ado, Peter Birchfield.
Well, first of all, I want to introduce somebody who's I've become very good friends with. I was introduced to right after the ANA by John Onkart. Right after the ANA in Philadelphia. With me today is David McCarthy. David McCarthy is with Kagan's, and I've gotten to know him over the last roughly 6 months, and he is literally an extraordinary person at researching, analyzing die pairs from not only but Morgan's now. I'm dragging him kicking and screaming into VAMs, but also is an accomplished author of many articles that have been published in all of our publications, and is incredible research for all of us to take advantage of if you're so inclined to do some, what I would call, and I'm going to say this more, a die study. He's published many articles. He's also worked with Smithsonian. He's worked with the Mints to help them find out what is in their collection and try to conserve and find out what's going on with the colonials, as an example. He's literally just an expert in the colonials. But again, I'm sneaking him, I'm dragging him into the vortex of VAMs. My name is Pete Birchfield. Just a quick background. I finished the Morgan Dollar collection probably 10 to 12 years ago now. And so I got them all. I was pretty highly ranked in that set. And then I sort of like put them aside and really didn't know what to do with them. And then 9 years ago now, actually this month, I destroyed my left knee skiing. I was non-weight bearing on crutches for 13, 14 weeks. My wife was just about to give me the little white pill to finish me off. And I was stumbling around on my computer, and I ran into this sinkhole. VAM World.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So anyway, I got my wife to go get my entire collection out of the safe in the bank, and I sat there for 5 days, and I VAM'd every single one of the 96 vans or Morgans that I had, and I only probably figured out maybe 10. But the important part is that it really led me to say, oh my God, what's going on here? And it's a fascinating story. So I did my own research and really did my own study. And so then I started, doing the 100s, the 50s, and the 40s, and trying to get the best I possibly could, or try to figure it out. So I was kind of down that path, and look, we've all met these wonderful people, and you get to know all these people as you get to instilled into the VAM community. And one of the guys, and I do highlight him, is Larry Ekins. He's a wonderful guy. I was out in Iowa. He doesn't travel much, unfortunately, but he challenged me. He challenged me to finish the 1878 B1 reverse. It's a 9-coin series. And I said, okay, I'll just go collect all 9 of them. And all I wanted to do was get all 9. And I swear to God, the vortex was just get the 9, and all of a sudden I started falling in this big, huge, massive whirlwind. And it got smaller and smaller, and it sucked me down. And I met John Roberts, and I met all these wonderful people out here. And so I completed the 1878 B1 reverses. And all of a sudden, a great friend of mine, Kenny, up in New Hampshire at the time, we were stumbling, bumbling along. All of a sudden, Kenny begged me to flip one of these things over. Because we don't, one of the things I'd like to say is, even though the really cool stuff on a VAM is in X, every once in a while, flip it over and see what the heck's going on the other side. Because you may be shocked what you find, because you completely miss it. So anyway, with the help of Kenny, we discovered what we call was Anna 1. And Anna 1 was the VAM 58, and it turned out to be the MDS. Little did I know that I had the EDS in my collection, because I didn't know what it was. And then we finally went off and discovered there was an LDS. But this sort of led us into this, what is really going on here? So we started flipping all over, 9 of them over, and all of a sudden it was like, holy cow, there's something going on here, and we have no idea what, because we don't have, try analyzing a graded coin in a 20 holder, or an 8 holder, or maybe, God forbid, you can find one of these things and actually get it graded and attributed in a good holder, in a 40 holder. So anyway, this sort of led me into this presentation. The presentation I'm just about to give reminds me of a combination of the old Abbott Costello skit, who's on first, what's on second, where's third. Also, it's part of the Shakespeare tragedy and comedy called I Dare You to do a Die Study. I dare you. Now, see if I can figure out how to do this. I call this quickly an executive summary. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the front end of this thing, and a lot of the research I've done is all hard-coded in, and you will all, I'm giving you the Bible. I'm giving you all the Bible of how to go home, pull your long knocks out, and figure out which one you want. And if you don't figure it out, send me a picture of all my contact and send it, and I'll figure it out for you. Like Brian asked me to do Brian and also Doc asked me to do one earlier today. This presentation is going to try to shoot off and try to find the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why in San Francisco. They produced 153 die pairs known currently from April all the way through the end of December. The focus of this presentation is to defend the theory and analysis of the die progression of Series 1 of 4 of the B1 reverses, the 1878 S's. This defense will bleed into what the hell happened after the B2s, or the first die pairs of the B2s arrived from Philadelphia later in the year. And again, I think there's what I would call, this is a play, and I swear to God this is a play. There's really 6 key people involved, and if you flip, if I can figure out how to flip, let me just hit the 5 key people. I'll call these the 6 actors of this play, and it's actually a 4-part play that I'm about to share with you. And a lot of this, I'd like to say right up front is, look, I'm the Costello of this play, okay? David is the abbot of this play, all right? So I'm the Costello. All I'm doing is looking to find out, I'm going to follow what the coins tell me, and thank God for David, because he has the literature and the research in the background to go to the San Francisco Mint, because they're out of San Francisco, to get the paperwork and documents behind this. And David is going to share some of this document and paperwork in an article that he's currently writing. So again, I'm dragging you and kicking and screaming into the VAM world. All right, the key actors here, okay, there's Henry Dodge. Henry Dodge is the superintendent of the San Francisco Mint. Okay, there's a mysterious intern worker, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper. There's actually two people in one on the mysterious intern worker. You have an older person, an older worker, who was solely responsible for doing the preparing of all the dyes that arrived in San Francisco, for the dollars, the gold, the silver, to mint all the coinage. He had an intern. I'll call him the intern or novice behind him, but he was not trained. The third person in this play is Henry Linderman. He's the supervisor of mints. I'd actually like to reverse this, okay? He's actually the collector of SPs, and on his day job, he was superintendent of all mints. So he loved collecting SPs or special strikes. J. Gus Burt and his 9 dignitaries were present when the very first B1 was minted on the 17th of April at 3 o'clock. Frederick Lowe was the governor of California at the time. We don't believe he was at that meeting, at that dignitaries at the very first B1 minting of the VAM, or what turned out to be the VAM 60. And then there's another person who just on this play is a gentleman named Samuel Damon. He was a partner at Bishop and Company Bank in Honolulu. I'll get to him in a moment. So, the opening scene of the play. The senior older mint worker who was in charge of preparing all the dyes for San Francisco. His duties were to basin, heat treat, anneal, and prepare all the dyes for all of the minting of coins of San Francisco. He was the only person at the mint with the skill to be able to accomplish this event. Well, here comes the tragedy. He was sick on April 16th, 1878, when the B1 dyes arrived from Philadelphia. Dodge, in his infinite wisdom, chose to hand the 10 die pair from Philadelphia, which are the B1s, for the intern neophyte to prepare the dyes. Here's my happy face. Without this event, I wouldn't be up here today. This intern converted the 10 die pairs into 5 OBs and 8 reverses that they could be used as working dies. So he destroyed 5 of the OBs and 2 of the reverses. So the men only had 5 OBs and 8 reverses to produce the 9, what we now know as the 9 B1 reverse 1878. Okay, this now brings us to the second scene of the play. The morning of the April 17th, we find the mint workers scrambling to put together the die pair suitable to produce the very first Morgan dollar in San Francisco. It turned out to be the VAM 60. Henry Dodge called 10 San Francisco dignitaries to witness the minting of these dollars. All 10 of these dollars were handed out to individually to these 10 individuals. The special strike ceremony was scheduled for 3 o'clock on April 17th in the afternoon of 1878. This is now known to be what we know as the J. Gus Burt special strike coin in PCGS Plastic 63. Unfortunately, but it's a beautiful coin, absolutely gorgeous. And it's one of the 10 handed out to the 10 dignitaries. The great news is, at that moment, Dodge was so proud, the head of the Mint, that he sent a telegraph off to Linderman in Philadelphia announcing that the first Morgans were produced. And then the Mint workers went on to produce 1,000 VAM 60s, and the reverse, less than 1,000 of VAM 60s, and the reverse broke. Again, this all goes back to the novice intern of poorly annealing, hardening, and preparing these dies. And we can see on the dies later in the presentation the cracks that developed on the reverse of the VAM 60, which eventually broke apart the reverse. They went on to produce in this series, I guess I'll quickly flip here. Again, here's some of the key attributes. I probably should put this up. 10 die pairs. April 16th, that's the key date there, when they arrived from Philadelphia. How many working die pairs worked? The first special strike was the 17th. The J. Gus Burt piece was came out of that from April 17th. And then there was, let me just hold the last bullet to the end of the play. I want to talk about that a little bit. So anyway, the Mint, and I'll just flip forward, but I'm going to come back in a minute. The Mint, this is the very first series produced out of the series. Wait a minute.
Stands for
Bud Ugly.
Yeah.
Most B1s are Bud Ugly, and it's fair. I could use other words to get one in a good order. The VAM 58, which is the Bishop piece, the Business Strike, EDS, MDS, and LDS, the VAM 56 and 62. So the VAM 58, the OB was only used once. The reverse was used with the 58 and 56. The OB of 56 and 62 are identical, and the VAM 62 reverse is out there by itself. So obviously it blew apart. The VAM 27 is 27A came first and 27 came second. Brian Raines figured that out. I want to thank him for that. And then one of my other favorite series is obviously the 72, because the 72 is obviously an extremely rare bird. The VAM 59, and then the 72, the 59, I call it the 1I, the 18 and 18A, which are the spaghetti wings. They all use the same OB. So the B1, the only identified known use of the B1s to survive into the B2s came out of this series. And each one of these has its own different reverse. If you haven't seen a spaghetti wing, it is really cool. Okay, again, this is for you. This is going to be published. It's going to be up on VAM World. We're going to incorporate a lot of this detail in VAM World and an article that we're writing so that you can get a copy of it. But the goal here is just to kind of give you an idea. All the 60s, 27s, and the 60s, 57s, and 26 all have a chip right next to L. So you can, even if you have a low-grade coin, you can figure out which one is which. These key attributes, circles, are predominantly for die study. If you have a high-grade one, they will come out, but at least you'll know which one you have. You can also see the S mark is a little bit left, a little bit high. Okay, the business strike, the cracks are really starting to come out on the reverse in the business strike, so that the reverse blew apart with less than 1,000 made. Okay, then the reverse broke apart, so they still used the OB of the 60, but they married it with a new reverse, and that's called the VAM 57 Type 1. The key 57 Type 1, there is no crack above space, and that's the one that I saw at Brian's desk earlier today. Type 2, all of a sudden there's a die crack. Again, these dies, you know, they're trying to keep them together. This thing is there's a major crack over the top of S, and there's a massive polish line between U and S in trust. and the die cracks. Then, I apologize, even me, after all these years, trying to get high-grade examples of what's out there, I can own, my highest grade VAM 57 Type 3 is at a 35 ohm. That's the highest grade I can find. So then we go on, then they married the VAM 26 series together, same OB. These are key lines to show us attributes of die progression. It's actually starting to crack, but very lightly in these particular areas. And the key to determine which VAM 26 you have, EDS or LDS, is very easy. And you can see this literally down to a 10 or an 8 or a 12 in grade. If there's a die chip at 5 o'clock next to the star on the left, then it's the LDS. If there's no die chip, it's the EDS version. So you'll be able to tell what you have. Here, the die chip is right here, okay, and then the massive cracks on the LDS and the polishing lines are really coming into play here on die study. Then they remarried the VAM 57 into what we call 4 and 5 remarriage. This die chip is right here next to the star on the left, which confirms that it's tied to the 26 LDS, and then there's really some serious cracking going on along the edging, and also a lot of polishing out of the nostril, and also along the lower part of the wing. There's an opening here now where the metal is touching itself, and there's a really incredible amount of polishing in this particular area. To determine if you have a 4 or 5, all you look is in this particular area. If you see a horizontal line, and I've seen them all the way down into the 20s, when I say 20s, I mean gray 20s. If you can see that line because there's some hidden area, then you know I have a 5. If you don't, it's a 4. This is just some additional die crash projections where we spent all night at a hotel up in Philadelphia at the end of the ANA. This is a quick guide to determine which one you have of the 26 and 57. Here they are. And here are the key attributes, even in lower grades, where you can find, if you just start answering the questions, either no or yes, and you'll be able to figure out which one you have. I want to special thanks to John Roberts, Leroy Van Allen, Kenny Marguson, Brian Raines, Ken Hamilton, and Bob Reed out of Philadelphia. Larry challenging me to get involved with the V1s. Obviously, John Barngrave and Russ James for helping me put this presentation together and keeping me somewhat on track and somewhat insane as I'm trying to accomplish this. With that, I'd like to open it for questions. Here's my address, my email, my phone numbers. If anybody has any questions on the V1s, please send them to me, and I'll be able to answer them as quick as I can. With that, we'll be open for questions. And again,
when is my eye going to heal?
The great story is, John brings this up, we were on our way up to Leroy's house a couple years ago to introduce what happened on the V1 reverses, because we finally found enough high-grade V1s, as anybody understands, they're not easy to find. They actually show Leroy. And the great story is, John and I, Leroy lives out in the country, if you've never been to his house or know that area. So we're making a lot of left and right-hand turns. It's a beautiful day. And the rental car I have has one of those glass windows above you. So as I made the left turn, John has his eye on his he's going wow, 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 all the way up to Leroy's house. So he's got his right eye right up to the okay. The coin, the 60, which is now a 63 dimple, the VAM 60 in the 63 dimple is right here, and all of a sudden the sun comes through the window up above, hits the coin as I make the left turn, and comes zinging up in his right eye. So you all now understand why, you know, he loves to destroy hopes and dreams in some cases.
The reason you keep on getting stuff body bags is you can't see anything.
Well, there's all these spots on the coin.
But this has been a lot of fun. And again, when I stepped into this, I had no idea that I would be be sitting in front of your podium. And I want to thank the Mint Director, Dodge, for obviously not rehiring the individual who's in charge of doing all the dies and preparing all the dies. And thank God he was sick in bed the day that the B-1s arrived in San Francisco on the 16th of April.
If you have the photograph of the dot or the chip by the star on the PowerPoint or on the thing, that is,
it can be blown up.
the single image that we put on the flash drive. Yeah, the one that's there, the regular photograph. It should be the second JPEG.
There's two chips I want
to. Yeah. The chip when you the die state or the early die state.
Oh.
That's not it though, right?
No, it's on the flash drive. It should be on the computer.
All right, let's go back and look here. Which one is picked? The latest, I guess, got it, right? Oh, he does? Okay.
The 57 then.
Oh, the 4 and 5 have it. 5 have it.
So if you blow that up,
yeah, you can blow it up. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Okay. VAM 26, LDS, VAM 57 Type 4, and VAM 57 Type 5 all have this chip. Right. Next, this second star on the left at 5 o'clock. Okay. And then go to the other.
The other images.
There's one other image. Oh, here it is. Okay. This is to tell you whether you have a 60, 57, or 26. See L? See that chip? I mean, even down in 10s, 8s, and 4s, you can still see, as long as there's some rim, you can see that chip. So you know, okay, you now broken your long knots from 9 down to 3. So now, if you have that chip, then you know what it is. Now you flip it over and say, okay, which one I got? All the way to the right, 26. In the middle, 57. Anything to the left, 60. Very simple. Boom. Baby.
Yeah.
This is still progressive. We're still digging into this. There's still more to be found in this area. We believe there's a couple other little yins and yangs out there. Again, we know of 5, 57 so far. Maybe there's another one, but again, we still have to wait for a high grade 57. Typically, you need to have it in at least middle of AU or a little bit better. Or if you can get it in AU, then we can start to do a die study. And the goal is, as I always say, is if once we find one and we can get another to confirm what we're seeing, then we're on to something. And that's what's taken this literally 6 to 8 years to figure it out, as Kenny understands, because literally, and John understands, just sitting there pounding through these things until a second example shows up so you can compare it to the first example that you have. It doesn't matter if it's a 72, a 26, or the 57. as an example, the VAM 62, I think it's one of the sleepers of this set because the highest grade 62 out there is in a 53 and a 50. That's it. There's only 3 and 40, and the rest of them are way down. On the mean on that coin is probably 12 or 10. And there are not that many out there. So that's truly one of the sleepers of the series.
Other questions?
Yeah, they're not that hard. I know a guy that's got a whole mess on the circulated ones.
Well, I think the great news, Kenny videotaped us today, so he'll be able to put it right up on VAM World. Kenny does a great job, and I want to promote. He loves to sit down and do what I call 5 for 5. Takes 5 minutes of your time to sit down to talk about something that you're interested in and that you're focused on. So he can put it up on VAM World. So when we're long gone, somebody who knows where in the future can come back and find out who the heck is David McCarthy or Ash Harrison or John Roberts or someday Leroy Van Allen. At least we have a record in history of what happened in the research and all the enormous amount of research we've all put into die studies, whether it be the B1s or the CC dollars out of Carson City in '78. And the great news is, you know, as we continue to put all this information out there, the grading companies are coming along kicking and screaming, okay? I mean, they're not, I mean, look, it's, you got to drag it, okay? But thank God for John. John's one of the leaders on this, so he gets it into the system pretty quick. So if you attribute by John, you're going to get the right attribution, almost guaranteed. Almost.
Just not the grade.
But at least it's graded.
I would like to make a comment.
Yes, Lou.
That you and I have talked about that San Francisco, one of their intents after admitting these $70 was to get them into circulation right away. They did a good job of that.
They did. Right. They wanted to. They wanted to prove that they were up and running with the Morgan Dollar. So they shipped these things out and got them into circulation as far east as they possibly did to prove that they were up and running as a men in the Morgan Dollar series. So a lot of them obviously got blown apart, and that's why most of them were just torn apart. But on the other front, not many were produced. And again, with David's help, when the government reopens, David will be able to have a chance to get back into the mint and look at the records on how many were produced, because Dodge had to produce a record of how many Morgan Dollars he produced every day and ship that record to Philadelphia. So if we can get back into San Francisco and we know how many were produced that day, and again, they could be 60, 26, 57. They're not going to give us that information, but maybe there's some information in that in the time series of how many are produced. Then we'll kind of have an idea. Knock on wood, Mr. Costello, of when the dies were breaking. As an example, we know the VAM 60, the reverse only survived 1,000 points. As John has drilled into me, survivability is what, 5% to 10%? Maybe? So if there's 1,000 produced, there's only between 50 and 100 that are going to surface. And right now, I have in my records 26 are greater. Okay? Now, there's a lot of detailed coins out there, but right now I know 26 in grade. I had 25 5 years ago. So only 1 or 2 have come to the surface in the last 5 years. I know one. I got one. But they're not that many out there. But again, it's the same situation. In VAM world, if you look at the POC report of the VAM 57 back in the day, how many do we have in the record? VAM 57 is 2 or 3x the population of all of them. So kind of like the tail front. Well, that was information to me. Okay, why are there so many 57s and why are there so few 72s? Why are there so few 60s or 62s or 58s? Really? Or 26s. Why are there so few of them? Okay? Well, that led me to say, okay, something's going on with 57. Let me flip it over with the help of Kenny and find out what's really going on. And all of a sudden, the light bulb went, so, okay, oh, there's 1, 2. So dice series, there's type 1, type 2. All of a sudden, I got another one, a little bit higher grade in the 50s. And all of a sudden, I flipped it over going, this doesn't match the other 2. And then I finally got another one and said, oh my God, there's actually a 4 series. And then I got this 35 in there, and it didn't compare to any of the 4. So now we have 5 different polishings. Well, I can't bring it on. 5 different polishings on the VAM 57. There could be another one out there, but again, we have to wait for another high grade example to show. Please, Doc.
Isn't there a transition reverse between the B1s and B2s?
The transition reverse, again, what I talked about earlier is the VAM 72, VAM 59 those are part of the original B1 dies that came in first to San Francisco. The first use of B2s, and again, I apologize on my nomenclature, I call it the 1 eye. There's now 7 known. Okay, and there's two. One is in the highest grade known. The squirrel found it out in the middle of Pennsylvania. It's in the 50 holder, and John got it into the 50 holder. I just found another AU coin, but it's heavily detailed. and all the rest of them are down in the Brian, stand up Brian. Brian has found 4 of the 7 known one-eyes.
I don't know why you say you call it a one. It's known as
It's a one-eye. No, we're talking about the dye pairs.
Oh,
you have
okay.
listed dye pairs.
Well, I was told that I thought
It's
I
a
had
different one-eye. Ignore that.
Okay, I thought I had misspoke on the outline of what a one-eye. Okay, so.
No, the VAM number is correct. It was on
Okay.
the little thing in the little
no.
presentation.
So,
there's a place in there. It talks about the 1, 1, 2, 3 dye. We're talking about obverse Roman numeral 2, 23. That's the obverse that we're talking about by Leroy's nomenclature. And then there was another place where we talked about another one, and it was the 1 I in your book. And
yes.
It was actually the Roman numeral I-1 dye. You'll see it in your presentation. It's very minute. Don't even worry about it. If you have any question, come to us later.
We're still chasing that story, but it was all believed, and when I first started down this dye study, we all believed that the VAM 18 spaghetti wing, and there's actually 2 variations of that, and this guy named Russ James who figured that out for me. I remember the call coming in. There's actually 2 variations of 18. We actually thought that was the very first use of the B2 reverses. And then Brian found the 1-eye, and I remember the VAM post, he goes, holy cow, look at this eye spike in the eye, which is once you see the eye spike, as Kenny understands, you know you're either 59, and now it's the VAM 59, which has a spike coming out of the eye. And again, I wasn't even doing that much detail in this presentation. And that spike also carries forward into the 1 eye. And then we blend into the 18, which has a spike in the eye also. So.
I'm actually going to answer Doc's question for him.
The outline of the knot.
Yeah, that actually is on 78cc. What wasn't really well understood is the way the nomenclature is written is that there are 2 separate hubs as B1 and B2. They're not separate hubs. These are hub stages. It's not like there's a short knock and a long knock. The knock broke off and they did nothing about it.
But that was in Philly.
Yeah, but they all come from Philly.
Right.
The dyes are made in Philly. It is a hub stage. B1 is early, has the long knock. It breaks off, and then you begin to have B2s. Early B2s have an intact G of God. And then shortly after the hub, you get the hub break to get that short knock, then the G breaks, and most of your B2s have a partially open G in God. But your really early ones, like my 78cc VAM 13, it still has the outline of the knock on it, and the 1-eye, the 18 and 18A, they all have intact G of God. So those are early B2 dyes from that hub. There's also some from Philly that are early B2s. The other ones come later, and then the R and Trust breaks, and those are all late.
I believe the second use of the B2 when the train arrived in San Francisco or came around the Horn and got the next round of B2s in there, I believe, and I can't prove it yet, but something again, I'm going to keep looking at it. I believe the very first use of the B2s independently of the B1s was the 111, the 22, the 77, and the 106. Which is 111 and the 77 are rare birds, okay? The 22, as Lou and I sat down earlier, there's an EDS, an MDS, and an LDS as a 22. We hammered that out earlier yesterday. So I believe that. Also, and I believe, and I can't figure it out yet, but the one with the spikes in the tail, the sweeping spikes in the tail, which is called the VAM 1D and 1D2, have something to do with the early part of the B2s. But again, I've been so focused on this, I haven't really had a chance to really dig in on the 1D and 1D2 and how that marriage fits together with other coins. And again, that's for another day and another study. But it's definitely, there's no doubt about it, when the older gentleman was not hired or was fired from his position after doing all the dies and preparing all the dies, the weakness in the dies in the preparing of it now led us to spaghetti wings. And again, one of my favorites is the dragon wings, and a lot of the unique characteristics, and I call it art. I swear to God, and I've said this to many people, I believe the San Francisco Mint, they put their mark, they put their fingertip on a lot of these early DB1s as they were trying to fix the dies to produce coins, and they were able to leave their little calling card on it, saying whether it be the spaghetti wing or the 5 or 6 different dragon wing varieties, or the re-engraved wings right along the side of the bodies. And then somewhere near the end of 1878, they obviously got their act together, and there weren't as many uniqueness characteristics coming out.
Okay, guys, I need to wrap this up, and thank you so much for
thank you so much. Of why 1878S has so many different varieties coming out of that year, because they only had less than 9 months to produce 158 different varieties, or die pairs matching.
I'm going to segue. I'm going to segue right into the awards. That's just part of this set presentation. And since you're up here, Pete, I want you to go ahead and see this. The 2019 Terry Armstrong Memorial Award goes to Peter Birchfield for outstanding efforts in the 1878 Bible
I'm honored. Thank you so much. Wow.
Very good. That's an annual award we give out to honor Terry Armstrong, a really great VAM collector who's no longer with us.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm moving quickly because we are really late on time and we've got more awards to do after this. So, 2019 President's Award is for John Baumgart for efforts on VAM World 2.0. John, I mean, I don't even know where to go. You've won all the awards, you know, and it's like, you know. This year's George Malice Memorial Award for an article is going to be going to Leroy Van Allen for his VAM collecting article on the 1879 O over horizontal O over O. VAM floor. He did that, and it was put out in the VAME, was it not? Or so he did that article, and this year the article award will be going to Leroy Van Allen. Hopefully somebody can take Leroy's awards to him. I have actually 2 of them. I still have one here from last year. Russ, can you do that?
I was thinking that, you know, you're closer, but I can take
I'm closer?
No.
No.
They are, but I can take them.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been out to see him in a couple of years.
Okay, then I'll get it done, because I've got.
Gains him in the eye and go see him.
Okay, and for 2018's VAM Discovery of the Year is going to be for the 1879S VAM 104. Who knows who discovered that? Brian Rance.
Who do you think?
We don't have a picture of that coin, so we'd really like to get one. So let me come down there.
I only wish you could have seen the 79S VAM 1J.
There you go.
That's a monster clash.
Well, we would love to see them and put them into the VAM.
For those of you that are unfamiliar with the work that Brian's been doing, there's a whole series of 79S's that have obverses that were on the 79S reverse of 78 coins, and they have reverses that were ground down to make the coins thinner. He has an entire series of coins like this. This is yet another piece in that, and Brian wants to talk about this coin.
I have presentation on the 79s. I've been trying to find an avenue. I gave it to the Jacksonville Coin Club, and I had 100 people there. I had no outline. I had no notes. And it went for an hour, and I got a standing ovation out of it, out of people who mostly did nothing with VAM. And I had great pictures. I tied in from the website, from VAM World, and the internet, and it just went fantastic. I've given it to quite a few coin clubs, and I keep loaning myself out to coin clubs to make the presentation. It's really awesome. I did the presentation to John Danberger, and I got him hooked on it.
Brian, I bet Fun would let you do it. I bet Fun would let you do it next year.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love to do it at the ANA. I can't wait to do it in Columbus.
So this year, 2019, as if you don't know, every year, well, not every year, but almost every year, we give out an award called the VAM Master Award, and it is a pioneering award. Some people want to call it like a Lifetime Achievement Award, but it's not really that. It's just for really substantial, long-term dedication to the hobby and to the, putting forward the efforts on VAM collecting. This one is overdue. I mean, I guess that there have been a lot of us that, just kind of have been in line, but I'll tell you what, this one's overdue. The 2019 award goes again to Brian Raines. Yes, you did.
Well, now you can put them on each side of the books.
Thank you again.
Close with it.
Close with my phone.
I got the box.
Brian, before you walk off, would you like to say a few words about what VAMs mean to you? Seriously.
Go to the
Microphone. I've been a long time error variety guy all the way back to elementary school, and I got out of coins in '82. After I became a Christian, I sold everything. I really needed the money, wanted to devote my life in a different direction. Back in '88, I got back in, and right after I got back in, I saw an article by Jeff Oxman in a numismatic, was it Numistake or Error Variety News, and I was hooked. And it just slowly built until Mike Fay put out that top 100 list. And then it really blew up. I love errors and varieties, but on any given day, I've got about 1,000 VAMs. And I can't wait for another opportunity to talk about the 79S's and 78S's, how they tie together. But I can't talk enough about it. I could stand up here and talk for quite a long time, and I know we need to close up. But I love VAM collecting. I love research. I've always called myself a forensic numismatist, and in VAMs it shows even more. I just love to dig and learn how these were put together, what made them end up the way they are. I remember a discussion I had with Pete Bishop many years ago. I called him up all excited because I was looking at my A-tail feathers. This is clear back in '88. And I said, you gotta see what I found. I was looking at my 8-tail feathers, the VAM 16 through 22s, and I said, some of these dies are actually 8/7 tail feather dies. And Pete went berserkistan on me. He threatened to sue me, and he went crazy. And I said, wait a minute, Pete, what the heck is all this about? He says, well, I'm writing an article for Coin World about it. And if you tell anybody, you're going to screw everything up for me. But this is one of the things that I found clear back in '88 on my own study. You can see the under arrowheads and the leaf from the 7 tail feather die. I love to research. It was one of my early discoveries that Pete had already been working on it. Anyway, thank you once again.
Okay, John, would you like to come up? Do you have?
Yeah, we've got to do some registration.
Oh, I got another one here that's well overdue, and I just want to give this to you. Kenny, you were not here last year.
No, sir.
And you won an award, and you have not gotten it yet. You won the VAM Discovery of the Year for 2017 for that incredible 11A, VAM 1884S. So there is that award. Thank you, sir. You don't happen to have that with you, do you?
No. The point I'll keep it in the safe.
It's in a safe place.
I have it. It's a 94S with a monster class.
84.
Or 84. And I keep on following it.
You won't.
Has anyone seen Dan Carr here at this show?
He told me he might be at Long Beach.
Are you going to be at Long Beach?
I'm going to be at Long Beach. I can take it.
Could I get you to take this to him? It's from last year. Okay, great. Maybe. Reach under that and grab one.
Does anyone else need tickets for the drawing?
All right, here's Dan's. If you take
I think I got everybody.
those two to Russ.
I was sitting around running my mouth, so I didn't.
Do you need one? I missed this one in the corner.
Does everybody have a,
No, there's a bunch of
just out of curiosity, does everybody have a ticket? Okay, because we'll do that here in just a few minutes after John's done. Did you get one? Did you show up late? He's been here the whole time. Did you want to get your votes? I definitely want to get. Is this your? Yeah. I definitely want to get one. So I'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 soon. Okay. Not tomorrow. Wait, I better get down there. Oh, okay. Okay. We can sign one and put it back. Okay. Okay.
All right, give me 1 second here and I'll be ready to rock and roll with our registry awards. A couple of these plaques, once again, we had an incident where not all of the plaques are made correctly, so we may have to come back and redo a couple of these. So just bear with me if they're not quite right. One of the main benefits of being a member of the Society of Silver Dollar Collectors is being able to participate in the registry, and the registry is a competitive thing, and you know, competition breeds excellence. There are a number of people that participate in the registry, and some of the sets are outstanding. And we'd like to recognize the excellence of our peers today. That's the main focus of the registry awards. You actually have to be a member of the SSDC. The sets are judged as they appear. I usually do a cutoff at December 1st. Sometimes I'll give it maybe an extra day. These awards are by set name. Please don't give your sets inappropriate names. As in other things, there is a substantial penalty for pissing me off. Names should be suitable for publication otherwise. If you have a great set, you actually have to put it in the registry or you can't win. Scoring system within the registry is the main criteria, but weighing different sets within a category is a matter of the judge's discretion. That's me. I am an employee of the sponsor, so I'm not eligible to compete. I have locked out a couple of categories because I have the top set, so it sucks to be you. There's only a couple of things like that, and that guy gets awards anyways. There's only really one person who gets tweaked by this, and he wins other things, so he's okay with it. He's not really that irritated by it. Although his brow is furrowing, it's all in fun. We'll get right into the awards because I know we're pressed for time and I don't want to talk too long. Shocking, the best complete Morgan VAM set goes to Fogey. I think he has won this award every year that it's been offered, but it's because no one else is anywhere near close to him. What are you up to? About 70%? No, 66% of the known Morgan catalog. Now, I've done a die study, and when I did it, I eliminated a quarter of the existing listings, so you're probably far closer to complete than most people would realize. The next award probably shouldn't be a shock either. It is bet for the best complete peace dollar set. Lloyd's Coins, Dr. Close, once again, no one else is anywhere close to this set. You have something like 74% of the known varieties.
My goal was 75 this year.
75?
That's my goal.
You probably will hit it. This one was a surprise to me because I've been giving out the same award to the same guy for multiple years, and lo and behold, someone new in town. Oh my God! I was very pleased to see this, and the guy that actually used to win this, he actually has a smile on his face that he didn't win. We have a new top set in the most competitive category in the registry. The standard top 100 Morgan dollar set has the most participants, the most complete sets out of any competitive category in here. And we have a new top set. It's called Morgan Dollars Top 100. And the gentleman is here today. Andy, would you please come up? I think it's only going to get better. Thank you.
Okay, wait, thanks.
It's like, see, more competition makes people work harder. It generates more interest. And they pay more. This was also a surprise to me. The top set in the standard peace dollar category had been this top set over and over again, but we had someone actually complete. We actually had one collector actually complete the complete piece top 50 set, and it's the first time I've ever seen that on the registry. So I don't believe Tom is here, but Colonel Willis sets is the first complete piece top 50 set that I've seen in the registry, and he is this year's award winner in this category. This is a category that encompasses multiple sets. This is the standard subset, and there's a lot of different sets in here. Lee's Super CD set, there's some impressive coins in there. It's not the longest set in there, but it really is an incredible collection, and some of these Super CDs are, well, they're near and dear to my heart. I had a little hand in the backstory on that book, so some of that I really am kind of partial to it. So I may have a little personal bias for the set that's presented in Super CD. being the judge, you get to pick what you like. There's an honorable mention in this category. There's an outstanding O/CC set. The guy is doing a date study on 1900 O's, if I'm remembering that. I believe this is the same gentleman. I'm going to have to send him his plaque because they didn't even make it for an honorable mention. The next 3 plaques, we're going to remake these, but if you want to take the plaque with you as an error, I'm sure it'll be worth money. They did these next 3 awards as honorable mention plaques, but they're not honorable mentions, they are the award, but you got these cute little tiny plaques. And you'll get a real plaque later on. It's the miniature version of it, but you'll get the real one later on. There is a little miscommunication along there. Best specialty set, E-Clash Morgans, the Master E set. And I know you're here and you've won before, but that is an impressive set. I mean, it really is an ass kicking. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Do you have any that aren't the top one in the set?
Yeah,
okay.
Actually,
all right. Now that's you. They weren't in the registry. That set, your set, wasn't in the registry at the deadline. So you may have some competition here for next year.
No, I could get rid of half my set and still would be number 1. But no, there's
that sounds like a challenge right there. You have thrown down a gauntlet. So perhaps you should take this award and be grateful that you won this year.
No, I'm going to bronze it.
Competition. It is going to need a little work on it.
There are 2. Who is here? Yeah, I know. As I said in the Navy, it's not not the size of the ship; it's the motion of the ocean. Somebody said that they saw in 1893 and 67, 36A. I know there's 3.
1883.
83. I'll count something like that. I'm dyslexic today. I'm tired. If you see one, I guarantee you, I'll buy it or he will. Just get it. And there's a 78P VAM 84A early clashing in 66 that came up on Heritage. I was the underbidder. So there are 2 that are.
So it may end up as hidden or unclaimed.
Well, no. The 78 VAM 84A is a VAM member. We were betting against each other, and I just couldn't see it because it had more hit bars.
Which E-Clash do you have that's higher than?
He's got the 83O VAM 36A.
That's the one you have in 7?
It's 66 plus. There's 3 when you go through the history of Heritage. There are 3 67s in PCGS plastic unattributed out there.
Okay.
So there are, and I'm looking for one of those. That's why I don't want his.
I see.
We'll give this later. It sounds like there's some competition to be had in this category. Best individual date set, I actually went for volume on this one, a Morgan 1878 set this year. It is called 1878 Philly Madness, and it is all of the variations of it, 8-tail feather, 7/8 tail feather, and B1s, B2s, reverse of 78. It is a massive set, and it goes to the set called 1878 Philly Madness, and I'm reasonably certain the gentleman is not here. He has a phenomenal set, and it continues to grow. And it brings us to our last award. We don't do this one every year. Being a smaller plaque, it lacks the impact that it should. The Impact Award isn't necessarily the most famous set out there, but it is the sort of thing that has a future for numismatic research. And this set has actually won awards before, but in a different category. This year I selected, we got some long ones here. There's a backstory on this, and here again the judge's prejudice does come into play. We sat around and we talked about long knocks in a hotel room in Philadelphia this past year, and we put David Miller to sleep, and
someone jumped out.
I think my girlfriend fell out.
No. Here's the other thing. Your girlfriend was staring out the window, looking longingly at the bridge to leave town for a solid half an hour. I'm not even joking. I look over, we're all huddled over the desk staring at the coins. I look over at her. She is staring out the window saying, someone please take me away. And I look over at David and he is out cold. We put our friends to sleep, and we make our significant others want to leave the room from high floors in hotels. And she didn't come back to the show, but Pete, you still have impact. Thank you. I invite you all to join the registry, upgrade your sets. We have some other things to do here, but I'm done with the registry. We've got Doc wants to talk about some stuff. We're going to give out some door prizes.
Oh, this is the auction. That's the reverse auction.
Yeah, I'm done with this part, but we're going to do that auction here in a little bit.
Oh. Okay.
So we've got some prizes to give out, and I'm going to do some more crap talking here in a little bit.
Okay. Do you want to do this? You want me to draw them and hand them?
I'll play, man.
Are you going to help me, or
I'll play.
I'm writing your check. Oh, okay. You guys do that. I'm getting a check.
Okay.
All right. So I'll pull them out, and I'm not looking. All right. There's number one.
All right.
What is this for? This is for one of these annex certificates?
Yeah, there's 5 free grading and attributions in there. We've got 3 of these, so we're going to hand these out.
Okay, ticket ending in 201. All right.
All right.
Here you go.
The second one, I can't see it.
You do the talking.
208.
No, you can pull that one. Throw that back in the pile. I don't need the annex grading.
Well, it's not doing it in pile. Oh, but there might be other things.
I might want to win some of the other stuff.
Okay. All right, dude, it's back there. Let me put it on the bottom. 191. 191.
All right. I said I'm going to do that one, and I didn't.
All right. 185.
All right. Gee, I wonder what you're going to send.
What's next? Okay. Next is 5 free attributions from the Variety Slabbing Service. Oh, I guess that's the one.
178.
You didn't pull your own number?
No, I didn't. I have to pay double.
Well, you gotta be here.
Got me here.
Oh, it's he's got to be here.
Gotta be here.
186.
Yeah, you stuck it out. This is the longest meeting of the entire fun show.
History of VAM Thing.
And the longest VAM thing ever. You stick it out, you gotta be here to get the door prize. That's a command decision, sorry. And I'm preaching to the choir because you guys are here. Is there another one?
There you go. We got 5th edition of the Morgan Silver Dollar Red Book, 208.
All right.
Oh, he did. I told him twice. Is there more?
One more prize.
Oh,
well, okay. These aren't really prizes. These are last year's calendars, but it's. Well, here's the thing. If you're used to a European style calendar where Monday is the leftmost column, you can use 2018's calendar as 2019. If you want one, just take it. You're taking it for these pretty cool pictures I've got here. Some coin board, for lack of better terms, but a lot of pretty pinup girls in these calendars. If you want these calendars, just take it.
They don't see 7.
Yeah. They're up here. Anything else to do?
All right, so what do I do now?
Whatever's next.
We got a couple of auctions for the good of the SSDC. There's some pickles up here that Doc would like to tell you all about.
All right. We're going to have 2 auctions.
Well, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, but does the
FDA I want you to auction these. Okay, well,
I just want to say,
you haven't
we got 2 great auctions
insured,
here.
I just want to, are you properly insured? Just in case the FDA gets on you on...
I'm not worried. We got 2 great auctions here. This, if you bid, you get to keep them and enjoy them yourself. This, if you bid, you get to stick it with somebody else. So, these Doc and Lulu's sweet and spicy Polish dill pickles are the best pickles you'll ever have in your entire life. People chase us down for them. And we have very limited production each year. And I'm going to let John auction these items.
Okay. So we're going to start off with these pickles. Alan Scott won these last year. Now, you've got to know that this is larger than what you can bring on a plane in a carry-on. You can't go through the TSA checkpoint with these pickles. So if you're flying, you're eating. This is for the benefit of the SSDC. Do I hear $10? Do I hear an opening bid of $10? There's a man walking out the door. We got several of those here. Do I hear 20? All right, we've got 20. We've got $20 here. We got a man in the back throwing stuff in the trash. I've got him on the hook for 25, even though he's walking out the door. I got $25. He doesn't even know it. Do I hear 30? Do I hear 30? I'm sure I can get 30 from somewhere. Mike, you look like you need some pickles. You can share. You have friends. You can share. We need some pickles here. All right, I don't know if I can get the guy for that $25 bid because he did sneak out the door. I do have a standing bid of $20. You look like you want a bid over there, sir. I mean, you need these pickles. I know you do. I mean, well, smile that big. You got to enjoy a pickle here. Can I get $25? $22.50. A cut bid here. Can I get a cut bid on cut pickles? We're not even going to have, oh my, we've got a gentleman, sure knows his own feet. That's $22.50 right here to Mr. Wickower. You may not want to bid on, but I've got some money anyway. So, can you convince a friend of yours to take them off of your hands? Oh wow. It looks like we're down to the last valid bid. We got.
Yeah, and they want to close the door.
I think you're on the look for John.
They are.
All right, we ran a lot of people out of here.
Yeah.
So we ran a lot of people out of here. So this may not do what it's done in the past. You may want to pay attention to this because one of the previous victims of this particular thing ended up walking in while we were still bidding. This is a Liberty Seated Dollar cologne bottle, and this cologne is horrific. If you remember high karate, that's being kind. This is also far over what is permissible on an airplane. So you may have some problems carrying this and getting this home.
You can't ship it either.
You can't really ship it either. So you're going to have to bring this back and stick this with someone else. That drives. Well, you're going to end up sticking this to someone. And the idea here is that when you bid, you're not looking for this for yourself. You're looking for this for that special someone that you just want to reach out and touch. Do I have an opening bid of $20 to make friends and influence people? I've got a 20 back here. I've got a 20 back here, and I'm suspecting... I've got 25 back here, and I've been kind of a dick today, so I'm a little concerned I'll go 30 myself. I've got $30 here, and I've got free range. We've got 40 here. Russ knows this game. He's been on the receiving end of it. Your Dr. Close is pulling the same thing that Brian did a couple of years ago and got stuck with it. I've got $40 here, Dr. Close. Do you want to prevent something horrible from happening to yourself? Save 50. Okay, that's the whole point. It is uncomfortable. If you don't want to have this happen to you, maybe you should save 50. All right, he's waving his hand around here. That was a solid $50 bid. Do I hear 60? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Do I hear $60? You're smiling. You look like you want to give this to someone. That looked like a bid. I got a bid out of you. It was a silent bid, but it's a silent auction. That's how you do blackmail. Blackmail is best done in silence. And now, I've got $60 here. The man's on the hook. Do I hear anything higher? We've actually gone over $100 on this thing before, but we had more victims in the room. Is Brian coming back? That's the question. Is Brian going to walk back from the store?
No, he's got an eidetic memory. He remembers what happened.
Well, he did. He's probably not going to fall for this again. Do I hear $60? I've got 60 going once. All right, we've got it going twice. I feel bad about the sold. Where would you like to place this?
Well placed.
Exactly what I thought was going to happen. Thank y'all for participating, and we get to do this again next year.